words sliced through the quiet hum of the airport lounge like a blade. "You're not on the list for first class. Please step aside, ma'am." The woman who spoke had the polished confidence of someone used to being obeyed. Claire Monroe, blonde bun pulled tight, crisp navy uniform, silver name badge gleaming under the lounge lights. Her voice wasn't loud, but sharp enough that the heads nearby turned. Subtle curiosity flickered across their faces. A few smirked. Others just watched. Jasmine Cole didn't flinch. She stood there, calm, composed, with nothing but a sleek black carry-on at her feet and a slim leather wallet in her hand. Her outfit was simple. Tailored cream slacks, an emerald silk blouse, gold hoops barely peeking through her tight curls. No flashy logos, no entourage, just quiet elegance. And maybe, to people like Claire, that didn't scream first class. Jasmine offered her boarding pass again, holding it steady. "Could you double-check?" Her voice was low, steady, polite but with an edge. "There must be a mistake." Claire didn't even glance down. "I've been in aviation 10 years, ma'am. I know a mistake when I see one. This is a private boarding area for premium passengers only. You're holding up the line." Behind Jasmine, a tall man in a designer tracksuit snorted under his breath. "Come on, lady, this ain't Southwest. Some of us paid real money to be here." A soft ripple of amusement passed through the small crowd. Polished shoes, tailored blazers, sleek luggage, the symbols of who belonged. And Jasmine? She apparently didn't fit the picture. Jasmine inhaled slowly, eyes flicking to the departure board. Flight 317, New York to San Francisco, Gate C7, boarding in 15 minutes. She turned back to Claire, still poised. "I'm on that flight," Jasmine repeated, tapping the pass with her thumb. "C2A, first class. If there's an issue, I'd like to speak to your supervisor." Claire's smile tightened, the kind that never reached the eyes. "I am the supervisor. Ms. Cole, is it?" She finally snatched the boarding pass, her manicured nails brushing Jasmine's fingers. A pause as she scanned the name. Her expression didn't change, but her eyes did. A flash of something. Recognition? No. Dismissal. She handed the pass back. "This isn't valid. You'll need to speak to General Boarding at Gate C7. Another glance from the onlookers. Some bored, others amused, and tucked beneath it all, that familiar, the unspoken math of who deserves to be where. Jasmine held her ground. The soft clack of heels approached from the side, a woman with salt and pepper braids holding a slim leather briefcase. She paused nearby, watching with quiet interest. Her eyes met Jasmine's for half a beat, a silent exchange, but she said nothing. For now, Claire followed Jasmine's gaze, then stepped closer, lowering her voice just enough to sound conspiratorial, but not enough to keep it private. "Look," Claire said, "I don't make the rules, all right? But we have certain standards. People notice, and let's be honest, you don't exactly fit the profile." It wasn't the words. It was the way she lingered on them, that smooth, smiling condescension dressed up as company policy. Jasmine's jaw clenched for the first time. Behind them, the lounge doors opened with a soft beep. A few more first-class passengers trickled in, suits, designer bags, whispers of private equity and boardrooms. A tall, broad-shouldered black man in a tailored navy suit paused at the door, scanning the room. His eyes found Jasmine, and for the briefest moment something sharp, protective flickered there. But he didn't approach, not yet. Claire followed his gaze, her confidence slipping just a fraction, but then she straightened, brushing invisible lint from her lapel. "I'll need you to leave the lounge, ma'am," she said again, louder this time. "We can't have unauthorized guests in here." A quiet murmur rippled through the crowd. Eyes locked on Jasmine. Assessing, judging. Jasmine stayed still. Her hand hovered over her phone in her pocket, but she didn't reach for it. "Not yet. They don't know who you are yet." The thought simmered, steady beneath the sting of humiliation, and in exactly 22 minutes, they would. But for now, she inhaled slowly, fixing Claire with a look that held neither fear nor anger, just quiet certainty. "Keep the boarding pass," Jasmine said softly. "You're going to need it." The silence that followed wasn't loud, but it was thick, tangible. The woman with the briefcase shifted slightly, her eyes narrowing with quiet suspicion, and from across the lounge, the man in the navy suit finally moved, slipping through the side door with the confidence of someone who owned more than just a boarding pass. Claire's lips parted. A question, maybe, but Jasmine was already turning away, rolling her suitcase behind her. The clock on the wall read 8:37 a.m. In 22 minutes, that plane would board. And this lounge? This crowd? Claire Monroe? They were about to find out exactly who Jasmine Cole was. Hey, real quick before we dive into what happens next, tell me where you're listening from today. Drop your city or state in the comments. I love seeing how far these stories travel. And if you've ever been underestimated for how you look, where you're from, or just because people think they know your story, stick around. Because Jasmine, she's about to rewrite every assumption in this room. The first-class lounge buzzed with the quiet arrogance money often bought. Jasmine Cole stood near the floor-to-ceiling windows, her carry-on at her side, eyes trained on the tarmac beyond. Private jets glinted under the morning sun. Her boarding pass still rested in her hand, the one Claire Monroe had practically thrown back at her minutes ago. Behind her, whispers curled through the air like smoke. "Probably snuck in," someone muttered. "These days, anyone thinks they can buy first class," came another voice. "She doesn't have the look, that's for sure." Jasmine exhaled slowly, letting the words pass through her, not into her. But she wasn't the only one listening. Across the lounge, Monica Harris sipped her coffee, her sharp eyes narrowing as she watched the exchange. A civil rights attorney from Atlanta, Monica had seen that look on people like Claire before. The calm cruelty hidden under polished professionalism. Beside her, her younger sister Tasha scrolled on her phone, oblivious. "You see that?" Monica asked softly, nodding toward Jasmine. Tasha shrugged. "Probably just airport drama. Happens all the time." "No," Monica said, her tone clipped. "This feels different." Meanwhile, Derek Price, a freelance journalist with a knack for sniffing out discrimination stories, hovered near the snack bar, his eyes flicking from Jasmine to Claire. Something wasn't adding up. Claire stood behind the sleek marble counter now, iPad in hand, her face tight with forced composure. Jasmine's name? He'd caught a glimpse of it, wasn't showing on the screen. But Derek knew how tech worked. A missing name could mean many things: error, oversight, or tampering. And the way Claire kept glancing around, biting her lip, avoiding eye contact, suspicious as hell. Jasmine, for her part, had returned to the check-in area, calm as ever. "Excuse me," she said again, voice steady. "Could you please confirm the passenger manifest?" Claire didn't even blink. "As I explained, ma'am, your name isn't listed for first class." "There's nothing more to discuss. I'm not asking for an opinion. I'm asking for confirmation," Jasmine replied, her tone still smooth but firmer now. A few heads turned. "You don't look like you belong here, that's all she's saying," the man in the tracksuit from earlier chimed in, laughing under his breath. Monica set down her coffee, her patience thinning. She approached the counter, flashing her bar card and boarding pass. "I'm Monica Harris. I'm a civil rights attorney. Mind if I take a quick look at that manifest?" Claire's eyes narrowed. "That information is private, Miss Harris." "Private?" Monica tilted her head. "It's displayed on that screen every time you check a name." Behind them, Derek casually lifted his phone, pretending to check messages, but the camera app was open, quietly snapping a shot of the screen as Claire shifted it. And there it was. A name, Jasmine Cole, seat 2A, half visible, then hastily swiped away. Derek's pulse quickened. Monica, sensing the tension, pressed on. "You sure there hasn't been a mistake?" she asked pointedly. Claire straightened her spine. "I'm sure, Ms. Harris." Across the room, murmurs swelled. The man in the tracksuit rolled his eyes. "Whole plane's gonna be delayed 'cause someone thinks they're more important than they are." Jasmine's lips barely curled into a smile. Calm, patient, unmoving. "I never said I was more important," she replied evenly. "I simply said I have a seat, one I paid for, one I intend to sit in." "Paid for," Tasha whispered from behind, finally paying attention. Derek, meanwhile, tapped at his phone, zooming in on the blurry photo of the manifest screen. Even pixelated, the evidence was there. The name, the seat, the intentional swipe to hide it. He pocketed the phone, his mind already composing headlines. Jasmine turned slightly, her eyes meeting Monica's for a brief, weighted second. It wasn't pleading, it was calculated. Patience. The clock on the wall ticked past 8:42 a.m. 10 minutes to boarding, and with every tick the quiet cracks in Claire's confidence grew wider. Everything was only just beginning, Jasmine thought, the words steady in her chest. They didn't know yet. Not about the name behind the boarding pass, not about the man in the navy suit slipping quietly into the cockpit minutes ago, not about the fact that in exactly 22 minutes every false assumption in this room would come crashing down, but they absolutely would. Quick pause, y'all. If you've ever watched someone get dismissed, doubted, or flat out disrespected just because they didn't look the part, stick around, 'cause trust me, what's coming? It's the part we all wait for. The lounge air was getting thicker, not from heat, but from tension. Jasmine Cole stood near the window, quiet, poised, untouched by the storm brewing around her. But Monica Harris? She wasn't built for silence. Across the room, Monica scrolled through her phone, lips pressed tight, eyes sharp. Her contact list scrolled by until she landed on Reggie Wizard's It Wizard. One quick text, a blurry photo attached. "Check this. Passenger manifest. Name Jasmine Cole. Seat 2A. Lounge claims she's not listed. Something's off." Reggie's reply came in under 30 seconds. "Confirmed. That name's in the airline central system. Someone at lounge level messed with the display. Probably local tablet access only." Monica's eyes narrowed. She looked over at Claire Monroe, still standing behind the polished marble counter, posture stiff, but her practiced smile faltering ever so slightly. Derek Price was already by her side. "Saw the same thing," he muttered, holding up his phone discreetly. "They tried to hide it. Your friend's on that flight." "She's not my friend," Monica replied evenly. "But this is familiar." Jasmine approached just then. No signs of anger, no defiance, just calm. "Excuse me," Jasmine said, voice smooth as satin. "I'd still like a formal confirmation of my boarding status." Claire bristled, tapping aggressively at her tablet. "We checked. You're not supposed to be here." "Really?" Monica's voice cut in, calm but sharp. She held up her phone. "Because the airline's central system says otherwise." A few heads turned at that. The man in the tracksuit from earlier frowned. "What are you, some lawyer or something?" "Exactly," Monica replied without looking at him. Claire's lips pressed into a thin line. "Her lounge system doesn't show her name. That's all I can go by." "Your lounge system," Derek echoed softly. "Or your personal bias." Claire's eyes snapped to him, her jaw tensed. Across the room, quiet murmurs rippled like waves. A couple, black, well-dressed, exchanged uneasy glances. The woman leaned in, whispering to her husband. "Something's not right here." On the far side, a group of business travelers, mostly white, mostly men, rolled their eyes, shifting uncomfortably but saying nothing. And near the corner, Haley, the young flight attendant on standby, stood frozen. Her eyes darted between Jasmine, Monica, and Claire, her fingers gripping the handle of her service tablet like a lifeline. Monica noticed. "You okay there?" she asked gently. Haley's lips parted, but Claire's voice cut across the room first. "It's gone far enough," Claire snapped, trying to regain control. "If you have a complaint, you can take it to customer service, but until then, this lounge is for confirmed first-class passengers only." Jasmine held her gaze, unmoving. "The truth always finds its way to the surface," Jasmine said simply. A flicker of something, fear, uncertainty, flashed across Claire's face. Derek took a step forward, phone still in hand. "Or," he added quietly, "sometimes it finds its way through camera lenses and headlines." Claire's expression cracked, just slightly. Monica's phone buzzed again, another message from Reggie. "Tell your friend to hang tight. I ran a timestamp log. Someone locally deleted her name from the lounge manifest exactly 15 minutes ago. System records everything, it's recoverable." Monica's smile was small but real. They thought they could erase her name from the list, she thought. What they didn't know, her name carried far more weight than ink on a screen. The room shifted ever so slightly, not a full turn, but a lean. Curiosity replacing dismissal, doubt creeping into certainty. And Jasmine? She stayed exactly where she was, waiting. Because presence? True presence doesn't disappear, it waits. The lounge looked expensive, polished leather chairs in soft taupe, floor-to-ceiling windows framing private jets like pieces in a gallery. The faint scent of overpriced coffee and designer perfume clung to the air. And yet, beneath the surface, tension, the kind you didn't need to see to feel. Jasmine Cole stood near the center of it all, her boarding pass back in hand, her carry-on by her side. She didn't raise her voice, she didn't pace, she simply waited. And the waiting? It made people nervous. Across the room, Claire Monroe straightened her uniform, jaw tight. The sleek iPad trembled just slightly in her manicured hands. But her smile? It stayed tight, calculated, the kind of smile that knew exactly how to hide behind policy. "Miss Cole," Claire began, voice deceptively pleasant. "We've explained the situation. Our records don't show your name. You can wait outside or you can leave." The words sliced clean, dressed up in false professionalism. "Expectations matter here," Claire added, her gaze lingering on Jasmine's simple blouse, her natural curls, her calm, unshakable posture. A few heads turned, eyes darting between Jasmine and Claire. In the corner, Monica Harris's chair scraped softly as she stood. "Funny," Monica said, adjusting her blazer. "I thought this lounge was for first-class passengers, not beauty pageants." Claire's smile faltered for half a second. "Ma'am, I'm simply following procedure. Is that what we're calling bias these days?" Derek Price chimed in, stepping forward, business card in hand. "I write for the Chronicle. Would love to feature this procedure in tomorrow's headlines." The man in the tracksuit groaned, tossing his magazine onto the table. "Can we not turn this into a protest? Some of us just want to fly." Near him, a middle-aged businessman in a crisp navy suit shook his head. "It's always something, isn't it? Can't even enjoy a lounge without drama these days." But across from them, a woman, black, early 50s, pearls resting at her collar, leaned closer to her friend. "Same old story," she whispered, "different airport." The tension hovered, unspoken but thick. Haley, the young flight attendant stationed near the desk, shifted uncomfortably. Her wide eyes darted between Claire, the growing crowd, and Jasmine, her grip tightening on the handle of her service tablet. Monica's voice cut through the hum. "Let me make this plain," she said, stepping closer to the counter. "I'm Monica Harris, civil rights attorney. If you call security on a paying first-class passenger without cause, I'll ensure it becomes a legal nightmare." Claire's eyes hardened, but her voice stayed syrupy sweet. "It's not personal, Ms. Harris. I'm simply maintaining standards. We can't let just anyone claim they belong here." Jasmine tilted her head, finally speaking. "I'm patient," she said softly, "but patience isn't the same as silence." The room quieted. Even the businessman with the navy suit paused mid-sigh. Jasmine took a step forward, gaze steady, unflinching, and silence isn't the same as complicity. Claire's composure cracked, barely visible, the kind of crack only those watching closely could see. Her hand hovered over her radio. "Security is on standby," Claire informed them, her voice a shade sharper now. "If Ms. Cole refuses to vacate the lounge, we'll be forced to escort her out." Haley flinched visibly. Derek's jaw tensed. Monica folded her arms. "You can call security," Monica said evenly. "But the real question is, what happens when security meets the truth?" Claire opened her mouth, maybe to argue, maybe to retreat, but before she could, a voice crackled softly from her radio. "Lounge 7, confirm status, security en route." A beat of silence. Jasmine didn't move, her eyes locked on Claire's. No threat, no anger, just certainty. The kind of certainty that didn't need volume. In the corner, Haley took a shaky breath, knuckles white against the tablet. The businessman in navy leaned over to the man in the tracksuit. "This might not end how she thinks." "Yeah," the tracksuit man muttered, "something's off." The room didn't explode, but it cracked, tiny fractures in the polished facade of privilege and comfort, spreading quietly. Across the lounge, eyes darted, whispers simmered, and the line between observer and participant blurred by the second. A middle-aged couple, both Asian, impeccably dressed, exchanged quiet glances. The woman's brow furrowed, lips pressed tight. The man shook his head, murmuring something in a low, disapproving tone. Near the espresso bar, an older white woman with pearl earrings sighed, pulling her silk scarf tighter. "Another one of these scenes," she muttered, not quite loud enough to be public, but loud enough. In the far corner, a young black man scrolled on his phone, eyes flicking up, locking on to Jasmine. His posture shifted, from slouched disinterest to sharp, focused awareness. His thumb hovered over the record button, but he didn't press it. Not yet. Claire saw it all, and for the first time the edges of her control wavered. She straightened her spine, her voice rising just slightly, brittle beneath the professional polish. "I remind everyone," Claire declared, forcing the words out, "this is a private lounge. Disruptions won't be tolerated. If you feel unsafe or uncomfortable, you're welcome to wait outside." The irony curled through the room like smoke. Unsafe. No one had raised their voice. No one had moved aggressively. The only thing that was unsafe in this lounge was the truth. Near the desk, Haley's knuckles whitened against her tablet. Her eyes bounced between Claire, Jasmine, and the quietly growing crowd. Her chest rose and fell in short, shallow breaths. She knew this wasn't right. Everything about it reeked of something else. "Jasmine?" She didn't flinch. In fact, she stepped forward, not a challenge, but a quiet, deliberate claim to space. Her eyes didn't just meet Claire's, they swept the room, landing on the hesitant, the skeptical, the quietly watching. "I've seen rooms like this before," Jasmine said softly, voice steady as glass. "Rooms where silence looks safe, until it isn't." The words rippled, quiet but heavy. The young man near the corner finally hit record. The room shifted. And Claire? Claire realized, far too late, that control wasn't something she still held. It was something slipping through her fingers. The door to the lounge hissed open. A tall, broad-shouldered man in a dark blazer stepped inside, security badge clipped neatly to his chest. His presence sent a subtle ripple through the room, the kind of shift only people who've been watching too long could feel. The murmurs died down, replaced by something heavier, expectation. And, for some, dread. Haley stiffened behind the service counter, her fingers tightening around the tablet like it might anchor her to the floor. Her wide eyes bounced from the security officer to Claire to Jasmine and stayed there, lingering. Jasmine hadn't moved. She didn't need to. Across the room, Monica Harris straightened her blazer, arms folded, her sharp eyes locked onto Claire. Derek Price, still near the side table, tapped his phone screen, the recording light glowing faintly. "Is there a problem here?" the security officer asked, voice deep but calm. Claire turned toward him, smile brittle. "There's been confusion," she began, carefully selecting her words. "A guest is claiming first-class access. Her name isn't appearing on our system." Haley flinched at the word claim. The officer's eyes flicked to Haley, catching the hesitation. "You verified that?" he asked. Haley's mouth opened, then closed. Her grip on the tablet trembled. Monica stepped in, voice firm. "Actually, that's where it gets interesting," she said, walking toward the counter, "because your lounge system seems to disagree with the airline's official records." Derek held up his phone. "And I've got images of the passenger manifest before someone conveniently swiped a name off the list." A low murmur rolled through the room. The security officer's brow furrowed. His gaze slid to Haley. "Is that true?" Haley's throat bobbed as she swallowed. Her voice cracked. I followed what I was told." "Told by who?" Monica pressed. Haley's eyes darted to Claire. Claire's smile faltered, but only for a fraction of a second. "It was likely a technical issue," Claire interrupted smoothly, stepping in front of Haley. "Our lounge interface syncs with the airline's database. Glitches happen." Derek's chuckle was quiet, sharp. "Glitches that only target certain names? Fascinating tech." Haley shrank slightly, visibly uncomfortable. Jasmine finally spoke, her voice low but clear, slicing through the growing noise. "It's interesting," she said, gaze locked on Claire, "how names disappear when they're inconvenient." The security officer's eyes lingered on Jasmine, her calm posture, her steady gaze, then drifted to Claire, whose confidence was slipping like sand through her fingers. "Ms. Cole," the officer asked, "you have your boarding documents." Jasmine handed them over without a word. The officer scanned them, his expression unreadable. The lounge fell silent, save for the quiet hum of air vents and unspoken tension. Seconds ticked by. Then, the faintest flicker of recognition crossed the officer's face. His eyes snapped back to Claire, sharp now, questioning, but Claire doubled down. "I'm sure there's a reasonable explanation," she offered, voice tight. "Our systems." "Your systems," Monica interrupted, "or your prejudice." The words hit the room like static. A few heads turned. The man in the navy suit shifted in his seat, discomfort etched across his features. The woman with pearls bit her lip. The young black man filming lowered his phone, gaze sharp. Claire's jaw clenched. Haley looked ready to cry, and Jasmine? She simply waited, because the cracks were showing. But cracks don't break the facade. Yet the lounge, once a quiet bubble of luxury, now simmered with something else entirely. Tension, doubt, division. In the corner, a young black woman with sleek braids leaned toward her friend. "Typical," she whispered, her voice sharp with frustration. "They see us and assume we don't belong, even with the receipts." Near the coffee bar, a middle-aged white woman tugged at her husband's sleeve, her pearls glinting under the lounge lights. "You see," she murmured, "it's always the same. As soon as they don't look the part, suddenly the system glitches." Her husband shrugged, eyes darting toward Claire, uncertainty creeping into his features. At the bar, a young man in a designer suit sipped his espresso, muttering to his colleague. Honestly, not surprised. Private lounges pick and choose who they let feel welcome. It's never about the seat, it's about the face. Haley heard every word. Her hands trembled against the cool tablet surface. Her pulse thudded in her ears, drowning out Claire's carefully rehearsed lines. The words Claire had whispered earlier rang louder now. "We have to protect the brand image, Haley. You understand, it's not personal." But standing here, watching the room shift, watching Jasmine stand unmoving, unapologetic, it felt personal. And Haley? She wasn't so sure she wanted to protect anything anymore. Claire's posture grew stiffer by the second. She scanned the room, eyes jumping from the disapproving looks to Derek's recording phone to Monica's unwavering stare. She caught Haley's eye and gave a tight, silent shake of her head. "Stay quiet," that look said. But Haley's jaw clenched. Her throat burned with words that wanted out. Jasmine, sensing the shift, took a single step forward, small, steady, claiming space. Her eyes never left Claire's. "You know what I've learned?" Jasmine said, her voice soft but steady, the kind of softness that cuts deeper than any shout. "When they can't erase you quietly, they try to shame you publicly." The words landed hard. The murmurs swelled, rolling through the room like thunderclouds. The young man with the phone recording lowered it for a moment, his eyes wide, not with shock, but with quiet respect. Even the security officer looked unsure, and Claire, her polished facade cracked, hairline fractures running straight through her confidence. The glitches were no longer technical, they were human, and humans, well, they break under pressure. The room wasn't silent anymore, it hummed. Low, steady, the way a storm does before the sky cracks open. Haley's hands shook as she tapped through the lounge system on her tablet. Her vision blurred for a second, but there it was, clear as day, glowing on the screen. A message, a name, and proof. "Remove her name, Claire's orders." The words glared back at her, undeniable. "And Derek?" Derek saw it. The journalist reflexes kicked in faster than guilt could stop him. He lifted his phone, snapped a clean shot of the screen, and tucked the device away, all in one smooth practice motion. Across the room, Monica's sharp eyes caught the exchange. "What is that?" Monica asked, stepping closer, her voice tight with controlled heat. Haley froze. Her fingers hovered uselessly above the screen. The young woman looked like she wanted the floor to swallow her whole. Claire noticed. Her head whipped around, the mask of forced politeness cracking at the edges. "Haley," Claire warned, her voice dropping low. "Don't." But Haley's silence wasn't enough to hide the fear in her eye. It wasn't enough to erase the truth reflected on that glowing screen. Monica moved in, her lawyer instincts razor sharp. "Ms. Haley," Monica said, keeping her tone measured but firm, "did someone instruct you to alter the passenger manifest?" Haley's mouth opened, then closed. Her knuckles whitened around the tablet. The security officer hovered nearby, eyes narrowing, watching, listening. "Answer the question," Monica pressed. Haley's eyes darted to Claire, then to Jasmine. Jasmine stood steady, not a hint of anger, just quiet, poised certainty. The kind that didn't beg, it waited. Haley's shoulders sagged, her voice cracking on the way out. "It wasn't my decision," she whispered. I was just following orders." The words dropped like pebbles in water, small but rippling wide. Derek's phone hovered in his palm, recording again. The businessman in the navy suit at the bar leaned forward, brows furrowed. The older woman with pearls shook her head, lips pursed in disappointment. Claire's control slipped further with every heartbeat. "I told you," Claire said quickly, her voice losing its smooth edges. "It was a system sync issue. These things happen." "Stop," Monica interrupted, her tone crisp as breaking glass. "We both know what this is." The murmur swelled again, low, unsettled. "And Jasmine?" Jasmine stepped forward, voice calm but cutting. "The difference between power and fear?" she asked softly, her gaze locking on to Claire's unraveling composure. "Power doesn't need to hide behind lies." A pause, thick, heavy. The young black man in the corner, still filming, nodded to himself. A woman near the window clapped once, quietly, before catching herself. The security officer shifted, no longer neutral. Claire's face paled beneath her perfectly applied makeup, her lips parted, but nothing came out. Jasmine didn't smile. She didn't gloat. She simply stood, tall, unwavering as the room rearranged itself around her. Because the truth was no longer whispering. It was walking straight to the front of the room. The room shifted. It wasn't just whispers anymore. It was stares, eyebrows raised, heads tilting, people choosing sides. A young black woman with braids, seated near the window, rose from her chair and quietly stepped closer to Jasmine. Her arms were folded, her stance protective, like she'd seen this script before and knew exactly how it ended. Beside her, a black man in a sharp gray suit, eyes sharp behind wire-framed glasses, joined her. He didn't speak. He didn't need to. His presence spoke volumes. Even those who remained seated, their gazes darted between Claire and Jasmine, calculation flickering in their expressions. And Claire? The cracks in her composure spiderwebbed fast. Her perfectly manicured fingers clutched the edge of the counter. Her smile, once weapon-sharp, faltered at the corners. A slight tremor betrayed her grip on the situation, slipping further with each passing second. In her mind, the same panicked refrain looped on repeat. It's protocol, it's procedure, it's not personal. But the room didn't believe it. Not anymore. Haley, her young face flushed and eyes glossy with unshed tears, stared at her tablet like it was an anchor or a confession. Her hands trembled slightly, and in Jasmine's stillness, Haley saw something dangerous. Not anger, power, and the quiet devastation of undeniable truth. Jasmine didn't gloat. She didn't need to. Her voice, low and steady, filled the lounge again. "They'll tell you it's protocol," she said, her gaze sweeping the room, steady and clear. "They'll tell you it's just a mistake. But protocol doesn't single people out. Mistakes don't follow patterns." The words cut deep, not because they were loud, but because they were true. The businessman at the bar rubbed his chin, visibly rethinking his initial stance. The older woman with pearls crossed her arms, her face tight with shame, not for Jasmine, but for herself. The security officer stood rigid, eyes flicking from Haley to Claire to Jasmine, the silent weight of truth pinning him in place. And through it all, Jasmine remained still, composed, unapologetic. Because the truth didn't whisper anymore. It knocked, and when it knocks long enough, the whole damn door comes down. The lounge was no longer divided by chairs and coffee tables. It was divided by truth and fear. Haley's breathing came in short, shallow bursts as she clutched her tablet, not as a tool, but as a fragile shield. Her wide eyes darted between Jasmine, Monica, Derek, and the growing wall of skeptical faces closing in around Claire. For a moment it looked like Haley might stay silent, might fold under the pressure, but then Jasmine's eyes found hers. No threat, no demand, just quiet, steady presence. The kind of presence that said, "You already know what's right. I'm just giving you space to say it." Haley's throat bobbed as she swallowed hard. Her lips trembled. And then her voice cracked free. They told me to do it," Haley whispered, each word carrying the weight of the truth buried too long. "They said if I didn't, I could lose my job." A ripple of outrage passed through the room. Monica stepped in, her lawyer instincts sharp as ever. "That's not a technical glitch," Monica declared, voice cutting through the murmurs like a blade. "That's systemic discrimination. And now, you've got a witness. And a digital paper trail." Derek's phone hovered mid-air, the red recording light unwavering. The businessman in the gray suit shook his head, disgust plain on his face. The older woman with pearls covered her mouth with her hand, shame blooming across her features. Claire's facade, once polished and airtight, cracked wide. You have no idea the pressure we're under," Claire sputtered, her words tumbling out unevenly. "We have standards, image to protect. You can't just..." Standards? Jasmine's voice was calm, but the undercurrent was undeniable. Or preferences? Claire's mouth opened. No words came. And Jasmine? Jasmine finally moved. She reached into the pocket of her cream slacks, pulling out her sleek black phone. Her thumbs danced across the screen. Not frantic, not threatening, just deliberate. A message, a signal. Then she slid the phone away and lifted her eyes. Her gaze swept the lounge. Every face, every whispered conversation, every shifted posture. Funny thing about systems, Jasmine said softly, the words smooth but sharp as glass. The people who really run them, they don't sit behind desks. The meaning landed hard. Derek's eyebrows lifted slightly, realization dawning. Monica's lips curled at the corner. She understood now. The young man still filming? His grin widened. Claire? Claire paled, sweat beating at her temple. The room, once skeptical, divided, now tilted entirely toward Jasmine. A group of black women near the bar stepped closer, their presence unapologetic. The businessman in the gray suit joined them. Even the security officer, once neutral, shifted, no longer guarding the status quo. The room belonged to Jasmine now. And Claire had nowhere left to stand. Jasmine didn't gloat, she didn't rush. She simply waited. Because this wasn't the end. This was the beginning. The game wasn't over. It was finally starting. The shift wasn't subtle anymore. It was loud. In the stillness of the room, the unspoken sides solidified. A group of black women near the lounge entrance exchanged glances, then stepped forward, their posture straight, eyes sharp, not aggressive, not loud, but present. Unapologetically so. Across the room, a tall, broad-shouldered black man in an olive blazer rose from his seat, folding his newspaper under one arm. His face was unreadable, but his presence added weight to the moment. The older woman with pearls cast her eyes down, shame settling into her features. Even the once indifferent businessman at the bar furrowed his brow, his eyes flicking from Jasmine to Claire, suspicion thickening behind his cool demeanor. Near the espresso counter, another subtle sound, the faint click of a camera shutter. A young woman with a sleek bob, clearly corporate, had her phone out, capturing the scene. Not to gossip, to document. And Claire? Claire was unraveling in plain view now. Her fingers fumbled with the edge of her blazer, her smile brittle and forced. Inside her head, panic screamed, "Don't let them find out. Don't let them know who she is. If they know..." But it was already too late. Every lie, every veiled policy, every smug dismissal laid bare. Jasmine's phone disappeared back into her pocket. Her gaze swept the room again, calm and calculated. "This," she continued softly, the weight of her words impossible to ignore. "This isn't about access." A pause. Her eyes found Claire, unblinking. "It's about consequences." A fresh ripple passed through the lounge. Heads turned toward the front doors. Eyes widened. It wasn't just a warning anymore, it was a promise. Monica took a slow step back, arms crossed. Her smirk, quiet but knowing. She leaned toward Derek, voice low but laced with anticipation. "Watch the door," she whispered. Derek's eyes flicked to the entrance, his phone still recording, the headline already forming in his mind. And Claire, all she could do was wait. The rules, they thought they wrote them. The consequences, they were about to meet them, face to face. The click of polished shoes against marble echoed across the lounge, sharp, steady, measured. Every head turned. The glass doors slid open, and in stepped a tall, broad-shouldered black man dressed in an immaculate navy suit. Silver cufflinks gleamed at his wrists, a subtle North Atlantic Airlines pin fastened neatly to his lapel. Dwayne Cole. The room rippled, recognition flickering like sparks in dry grass. "Is that That's Dwayne Cole. Wait. That means... Eyes widened, mouths parted. The math wasn't hard to do. Dwayne's gaze swept the room with quiet authority, pausing briefly on Claire, lingering with subtle warning, before settling, softening, as it landed on Jasmine. I declare welcome. Prostration. As it landed on. Not a word passed between them. It didn't need to. Jasmine stepped forward, steady, composed, every inch of her radiating the quiet confidence of someone who no longer needed to prove anything. Claire's face drained of color. Her hand hovered uselessly near her tablet, fingers trembling. Mr. Cole, Claire managed, her voice suddenly too high, too small. I wasn't aware. That's clear, Dwayne replied, his voice velvet smooth but carrying the unmistakable edge of command. He turned to the security officer, still frozen in place, then to the lounge staff who lingered nervously by the counters. There seems to be confusion, Dwayne said evenly. Allow me to clarify. The air thickened. This is Jasmine Cole, he continued, gesturing toward his wife without theatrics. She's not simply a passenger. She's not simply my wife. She co-owns North Atlantic Airlines. A stunned silence blanketed the room. The businessman at the bar dropped his glass onto the counter with a soft clink. The group of black women near the lounge entrance exchanged knowing glances, quiet pride blooming across their faces. The older woman with pearls looked positively faint. Monica folded her arms, lips curled into a satisfied smirk. And Claire's knees almost buckled. I didn't know, Claire stammered, her voice cracking under the weight of humiliation. We were just following protocols. Dwayne arched an eyebrow. The kind of protocols that mysteriously erase passenger names? Claire's mouth opened, but no defense came. Jasmine didn't gloat. She didn't sneer. She simply stepped into the space she'd always owned. Funny thing about seats and systems, Jasmine said softly, her voice carrying clear across the room. Turns out, I don't need either to own the space. A low murmur of approval swept through the lounge. The security officer straightened, his posture subtly shifting toward Jasmine and Dwayne. Derek's phone caught every second the glow of the screen reflected in his quiet, satisfied grin. And the room? The room no longer belonged to protocols, or policies, or whispered prejudice. It belonged to Jasmine, and for the first time since this ordeal began, every single person in that lounge knew it. The silence in the lounge didn't last long. Whispers bloomed like wildfire. Co-owner? Wait, she owns the airline? How did they not know who she was? The disbelief rippled through the room as guests scrambled for their phones, fingers flying across search engines. Within seconds, Jasmine's image flashed across glossy news articles, business profiles, magazine covers. Jasmine Cole, tech innovator, CEO, co-owner of North Atlantic Airlines. Some eyes widened in shock, others narrowed in quiet respect. At the far end of the lounge, a group of young entrepreneurs stared at their phones, jaws slack. I had no idea, one whispered. She's worth more than half the people in this room combined. A silver-haired businessman near the bar exhaled slowly, shaking his head. Damn, he muttered to no one in particular. They really messed with a wrong woman. The young flight attendant at the counter, eyes wide, face flushed, dropped her gaze in embarrassment, unable to meet Jasmine's eyes. And Claire? Claire's hands trembled visibly now, her knuckles white against the tablet still clutched at her side. Her carefully curated confidence had vanished, replaced by panic, raw and unfiltered. This can't be happening, the thought spiraled. I insulted the co-owner's wife. Her throat closed, the weight of her mistakes suffocating. Dwayne's voice, smooth as silk but firm as steel, cut through the tension. I suggest, he said, eyes locked onto the lounge staff, we update your passenger manifest, accurately this time. The young staff member behind the desk fumbled with the system, his face pale as he scrambled to restore Jasmine's name. Across the room, Jasmine remained still. Her eyes scanned the lounge, every seat, every face. Calm, collected, undeniably in control. "People like me," Jasmine said softly, her words carrying across the space. "We don't wait for permission. We build the door. Then we walk through it." The room quieted again, not out of fear, out of something stronger. Respect. And in that silence, every person understood. This wasn't about a seat. It never had been. It was about presence. And Jasmine Cole, she owned that. Entirely. Claire Monroe looked like she wanted the floor to open and swallow her whole. Her cheeks, once flushed with false authority, had drained pale. Her jaw clenched, her lips parted in frantic broken starts of excuses. But no words stuck. The room was watching. Every set of eyes, skeptical, curious, disbelieving, now pinned firmly on her. And not a single one offered rescue. I didn't know," Claire stammered, the words brittle, unraveling at the edges. "This was never... I didn't mean..." She gestured weakly toward Haley, toward the glitching tablet, toward the broken facade of control around her. But it was useless now. The young flight attendant avoided her gaze entirely, face tight with quiet shame. Dwayne Cole stood calm and composed beside Jasmine, arms folded, watching without a flicker of sympathy. He didn't need to raise his voice. His presence alone made it clear this was handled. "We'll deal with this internally," Dwayne said simply, his words cutting with corporate finality. The security officer, once uncertain, now stood a subtle half-step behind Jasmine, his stance aligned with the real power in the room. Claire's shoulders sagged, her lips trembling. She looked around. At the staff, the passengers, the sharp glint of smartphones still pointed her way, and found no allies. Jasmine stepped forward. Her voice wasn't raised. It didn't need to be. "See, the thing about power," she began, her eyes sweeping the lounge with quiet command, "it's not about who you exclude." A pause, measured, intentional. Jasmine's gaze landed on Claire, unblinking, steady. "It's about who you can't silence." The words echoed, soft but undeniable, like the final sharp click of a courtroom gavel. A few people clapped softly, tentative at first, then stronger. A group of black women near the lounge entrance exchanged proud smiles, their applause steady. The businessman at the bar shook his head, a quiet, knowing grin on his face. Even the older woman with pearls, face flushed with embarrassment, offered a small nod of respect. Claire shrank visibly, her once confident frame folding in on itself as the applause filled the space. And Jasmine? She didn't gloat. She didn't need to. She simply lifted her carry-on, straightened her shoulders, and turned toward the boarding gates. No further argument, no further permission. She walked, slow, steady, through the lounge she'd never needed to prove she belonged in. Because today she hadn't just claimed her seat, she'd redefined the entire room. The lounge wasn't just quiet now, it was cracked wide open. A group of young professionals near the window exchanged glances, their hushed voices buzzing with quiet awe. "She owns the airline," one of them whispered. "They tried to block her, and now look." Classic mistake. Underestimating a black woman with power. At the espresso counter, an older woman in a navy blazer leaned toward her husband, her voice low but laced with knowing. "They tried to erase her," she murmured, "and now they're erasing themselves." One by one, passengers rose from their seats, collecting their belongings with a deliberate, quiet shift, as if proximity to Claire, to the tainted illusion of her authority, was something contagious, and they wanted no part of it. Claire saw it all. She saw their retreating backs, their narrowed eyes, their subtle but damning rejection, and she unraveled. Her fingers, still clutching the tablet, shook visibly. Her shoulders sagged beneath the invisible weight of exposed failure. Everything's ruined. The thought spiraled inside her head. Everything. She scanned the room, desperate for an ally, a staff member, a sympathetic face, but found only the cold, heavy truth reflected back at her. Dwayne Cole stood steady beside Jasmine, his stance unreadable but unshakably aligned with the woman who now commanded every inch of the room. Monica smirked from across the lounge, arms folded, her eyes glinting with hard-earned satisfaction. Derek adjusted his phone, the red recording light still glowing. Evidence secured, headlines forming. Jasmine didn't rush. She didn't flinch. She simply turned to Claire one last time, her gaze steady as steel. "Funny how systems crumble," Jasmine said softly, her voice calm but cutting, "when you stop believing they're bigger than you." The words landed like a quiet detonation. The room stilled. No one spoke, no one argued, because they all knew. The system, the illusion, it had already cracked. And Jasmine Cole, she wasn't just sitting at the table now, she'd rewritten it. The soft clack of her heels echoed as she walked toward the boarding gate, Dwayne following at her side. No permission needed, no apology given, only presence, undeniable, unshakable. And as she disappeared down the jet bridge, the lingering silence spoke louder than any protest ever could. Today, the thought hummed through every corner of the room, she didn't just reclaim her seat. She shattered the illusion that kept the wrong people in power. It didn't take long for the story to travel. Within 24 hours, whispers from the first-class lounge had morphed into headlines. Black female airline co-owner publicly humiliated by staff, then quietly reclaims the room. Power, prejudice, and passenger lists. What really happened at North Atlantic Airlines? When you own the airline and the room, Jasmine Cole's silent clapback. The internet naturally had opinions, some outraged, some inspired, most impressed. But Jasmine, she stayed silent. Not out of weakness, but because when you own the narrative, you don't chase it. You control it. A week after the incident, North Atlantic Airlines released an internal memo. Effective immediately, Claire Monroe, lead lounge supervisor, was suspended pending an official investigation. The airline committed to mandatory inclusion and anti-bias training for all frontline staff. A new feedback system was being rolled out to empower passengers, regardless of appearance, to report discrimination swiftly. The public statement came later, polished, formal, expected. But the video sent to every employee? That hit different. Dwayne Cole appeared on screen first. Crisp suit, calm authority. "We built this airline to serve the world," he began. "And the world? It looks like everyone. That means everyone belongs here." He stepped aside. Jasmine Cole filled the frame. No podium, no teleprompter, just presence. "Power isn't about headlines," Jasmine said, her voice low, steady. "It's about the quiet, consistent work of dismantling what never served us. This isn't about one lounge or one name on a list." She paused, intentional, firm. "It's about systems and the courage to rebuild them properly." The message was clear. This wasn't revenge. It was reform. Derek's article followed, weaving sharp commentary with quiet admiration. "They tried to erase her from a list. Turns out Jasmine Cole owns the list and the building it hangs in." The comments section exploded. And just like that, the system cracked open, not with noise, but with quiet, deliberate, undeniable correction. 1 week later, Jasmine stood at the boarding gate, no raised eyebrows, no hushed whispers, no laminated manifest being discreetly edited, only respect. The gate agent smiled, scanning her boarding pass without hesitation. "Welcome aboard, Ms. Cole." Jasmine smiled softly, thanked him, and walked toward the jet bridge. Not because she demanded her seat, but because this time, the space already knew who it belonged to. Because sometimes building your own table isn't loud. Sometimes it's the quietest form of revolution. You know, stories like this, they hit different because they're not just stories. They're reminders. Reminders that for so long, so many of us, especially Black women, have had to fight for spaces we already earned. That we've had to carry proof, receipts, calm, composure, just to exist where we belong. But what Jasmine did, that wasn't loud, that wasn't dramatic, it was quiet, it was strategic, and it was powerful. She didn't ask for respect. She walked in, owned her space, and let the system expose itself. And that's the kind of energy we need to move with every day. Thank y'all for riding with me to the very end of this one. If this story moved you, inspired you, or made you reflect, drop a comment below. Tell me what part hit you the hardest. And hey, don't forget to subscribe. We've got more real, raw, and unapologetic stories coming your way.